What if I told you one of the quietest, strangest miracles in football came from the end of a spike, a kicker's confidence, and 4 seconds on the clock? Trevor Lawrence stops the clock. The stadium holds its breath. Cam Little walks on and, in a single arc of leather and air, rewrites what everyone thought possible. He didn't just make a field goal, he made history. NFL.com, he'd teased it back in August, in a preseason moment that felt part bravado, part experiment. Little boomed a 70-yarder that lived for a few glorious seconds in highlight reels and then didn't count for the record books because preseason is its own parallel universe. Still, the preseason kick mattered less as an official number and more as a message. This isn't fluke power. He'd felt the distance. He knew the leg. Coaches remembered. That memory made a decision on Sunday less insane and more calculated. Reuters picture the scene before the kick. The Jaguars trailing, the clock bleeding toward halftime, a stadium tuned to the low frequency of what if. The math said 68 yards. The risk said maybe insanity. The reward said 3 points and a heartbeat change in momentum. Little, a young kicker who'd come up through college at Arkansas and landed in Jacksonville as a late-round pick, tried it. The ball left his foot like a comet. People leaned forward. It sailed. Uprights caught the sound. The record, Justin Tucker's 66-yard masterpiece from 2021, was surpassed by 2 yards. And for a moment, television felt like theater and physics at once. There's humor in the moment, too. You can almost picture the special teams coach glancing at the analytics chart and then at the kicker, like two people agreeing to a small, reckless war. It's the kind of decision that looks insane on paper and brave in the film room. The Jaguars had seen the 70-yarder in preseason. They knew there was room for faith. That's how tiny myths start. An off-season stunt becomes a mid-season legend, and for the players, for the fans in the stands, it became one of those moments that makes the rest of the game feel secondary. Jaguar tonight, fat game. Jaguars.com. But history didn't live only in the highlight. That kick changed the game. It put points on the board at the exact moment a team most needed them. Momentum in football is a slippery, stupid thing. One three-pointer before halftime can rearrange play calling, sharpen a coach's aggression, and flip an entire locker room's mood. Later, when Little calmly drilled a 48-yarder to force overtime, you understood the full architecture. The record wasn't a spectacle for spectacle's sake. It was a lever that helped pull an overtime win into being. The final score said 30-29, but those kicks were why the Jaguars had a chance to celebrate in overtime. Jaguars.com. There's a human spine running through this. Cam Little wasn't a guaranteed star. He was a sixth-round pick who earned roster respect the hard way. He'd hit nearly everything as a rookie, then hit a few rough patches from long distance this season. So Sunday was equal parts vindication and new reality. For a player who had already shown he could hit 70 in preseason, doing it when the game counted converted rumor into record. It's the difference between practicing a trick and doing it with 65,000 people watching and millisecond replays waiting to pick your technique. The pressure is different. The courage is the same. Coco. Let's not romanticize mechanics without honoring craft. A 68-yard field goal is geometry and timing. Foot plant, angle, snap speed, hold, the seams of the ball, the kicker's follow-through. 1 degree off, and you have heartbreak instead of history. Coaches and analysts will break down the film for weeks. What the wind was doing in the dome. Yes, even in a closed stadium, micro conditions matter. How the plant foot held up, how the ball rotated as it climbed. Those nerdy conversations are the shadow show behind the highlight reel. But for everyone else, it was simply awe. A human body doing what most of us thought the laws of sport might prevent. NFL.com. And there's a broader beat. Kicking in the NFL is changing. Long kicks that once felt like moonshots are becoming scenarios coaches weigh differently. Preseason 70-yarders and now an official 68-yard stroke alter strategic conversations. 4th down at midfield, maybe you kick. Last seconds at the end of a half, maybe you swing for the fences. The ripple through special team strategy will be subtle at first, then obvious. Opponents will scout range differently. Coordinators will game plan around a kicker's true ceiling, and front offices will value the leg in new ways. Records shift more than history. They shift behavior. Sportsnet.ca. But the best part is small and stubborn, the locker room moment after. Teammates swarm a kicker, and for one heartbeat, he is no longer an unglamorous specialist. He's the center of a miniature mythology. The coach who let him try the kick gets a wry smile. Opposing coaches file away a new problem, and Little himself gains something that numbers can't fully capture, a new kind of legitimacy. He's not just the kid with a cannon, he's the man who did the thing when it meant everything. Jaguars.com. Finally, there is the long view. Records are often about the sport's arc. Justin Tucker's 66 held for years because it felt like the ceiling. Little's 68 says the ceiling moved, quietly and then suddenly. But records, for all their glamour, are also invitations to try harder, to practice truer, to imagine a little more. For a sixth-round kid from Oklahoma who kicked at Arkansas and then in neon Jaguars gear, it's both a career milestone and a dare to the next generation of kickers. How far can you push what feels possible? Reuters. So when the highlights settle and the talking heads file their takes, remember this. Sports give us tiny, pure moments where preparation meets audacity. Cam Little didn't only make a 68-yard field goal. He shifted a conversation and handed his team a chance they turned into an overtime win. In seconds, the league's record books were different. In the long parts between games, strategy and belief will bend toward that new truth. And for a guy who kicked a 70-yard free for all in August and then did it where it mattered most, the final image that sticks is simple. A ball arching perfect, a stadium letting out a sound that is equal parts shock and joy. He didn't just kick a record, he kicked the door open. You ever watch a play and feel the whole stadium hold its breath like it's one big living thing and then explode because the improbable suddenly became inevitable? That's what happened in Las Vegas when Cam Little stepped onto the field, drilled a 68-yard field goal as the half expired, and rewrote the NFL's record book in one quiet, thunderous swing. NFL.com picture the setup. Trevor Lawrence threads a pass, spikes the ball with 4 seconds left, and every jitter in the Jaguars special teams unit suddenly matters. The snap, the hold, the rush, all of it had to be flawless. Little walked in, trusted the motion, and launched a ball that didn't just clear the uprights, it cleared the idea of what was possible. 2 yards longer than Justin Tucker's 66-yard masterpiece from 2021, Little's kick landed in history as the longest FG ever made in an official NFL game. The stadium went from stunned silence to pandemonium in a blink, ESPN.com. If you want to understand why coaches greenlight a 68-yard attempt, you need to know the backstory. Little had already shown this leg could do damage. In August, during a preseason game, he drilled a 70-yard field goal, a shot that couldn't count for records but absolutely counted for confidence. That preseason strike didn't exist as a highlight for statisticians. It existed as proof to Liam Cohn and the Jaguars staff. This kid can really kick it that far. When you've seen someone do it once in game conditions, the risk calculus changes. Reuters. Let's slow the tape down because the details are the reason this wasn't luck. For a 68-yard attempt to succeed, you need a perfect snap and hold, an unblocked kicking lane, optimal plant foot mechanics, and the exact launch angle that gives both carry and height. If the line rush is just right, the kick's trajectory becomes a target for a block. If the contact isn't pure, it falls harmlessly short. Little hit the sweet spot on all of that, and the preseason work, the long reps, the K-ball practice, whatever you want to call it, paid off at the perfect moment. NFL.com, there's a practical ripple to this moment that changes the game planner's math. End-of-half strategies now have a different fork. Do you burn downs to get inside the 50-yard line, or do you spike and let a kicker you trust try from midfield plus? When a team can credibly attempt and make a 60-plus yard field goal, you can play with the clock in ways you couldn't before. That should terrify defensive coordinators. The Jaguars didn't just add 3 points. They added a new column to every opponent's late half checklist. NFL.com,